Introduction to Business, 2nd edition, an OpenStax textbook. Read along with the full text at openstax.org. This audiobook was produced by Open Audio. Listen for free on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on our website at openaudio.us.
Chapter 6. Management and Leadership in Today's Organizations. Introduction.
Learning outcomes. After reading this chapter, you should be able to answer these questions. 1. What is the role of management? 2. What are the 4 types of planning? 3. What are the primary functions of managers in organizing activities? 4. How do leadership styles influence a corporate culture? 5. How do organizations control activities? 6. What roles do managers take on in different organizational settings? 7. What set of managerial skills is necessary for managerial success? 8. What trends will affect management in the future?
Exploring Business Careers. Jalen Getz, Costumes.com, and Wantable Incorporated. You might ask, how does one come to work in the world of online costume retail? A passion for holiday make-believe and dress-up? A keen eye for business potential? The drive to capitalize on a competitive advantage? If you're Jalen Getz, the answer is all of these. Getz is the founder of Costumes.com, an online costume and accessories retailer, now run by Dan Haight, and, most recently, founder of Wantable Incorporated. As with most businesses, Costumes.com and Wantable Incorporated are the result of careful planning. Costumes.com was a response to what Getz saw as inherent flaws of resource allocation with the business model of brick-and-mortar costume retailers. The company experienced scale problems when they started over every year. Because we only were in a mall 4 or 5 months a year, locations we had one year often were rented the next. So we had to find new stores to rent each year. Then we had to find management to run the stores and train employees to staff them. We also had to shuffle the inventory around each year to stock them. It's almost impossible to grow a business like that. By turning to the internet, however, Getz was able to bypass all of those issues. The virtual space was available year-round, and inventory and staff were centralized in a single warehouse location. Getz grew Costumes.com to a multi-million-dollar business before selling it, with a staff of about 600 employees during its peak season. Before Getz sold the business, it carried over 10,000 Halloween items and had upwards of 20 million visitors each holiday season. In 1 year, it shipped over 1 million costumes across the world, including 45 countries outside the United States. We say that our goal is to ensure that anytime anyone buys a costume anywhere in the world, it will be from Costumes.com. And, although to some extent we're kidding, we're also very serious. To keep track of all this action, Getz mixed ideals of a strong work ethic, a willingness to take risks, and an interest in having fun while making a profit. Given the size of the company, Costumes.com organized its management to help keep the company focused on the corporate goal of continued growth. For Getz, his role in the management hierarchy was to hire excellent people who have similar goals and who are motivated the same way I am, and then put them in a position where they can succeed. Beyond that, inspect what you expect. This maxim is a concise way to say that, although he does not believe in constantly watching over his employees' shoulders, he does believe in periodically checking in with them to ensure that both he and they are on the same page. By considering the process of management a conversation between himself and his employees, he exhibits a strong participative leadership style. Getz will joke that he wishes he could say that he spent his childhood dreaming of the day he could work with costumes. The truth, though, is that he saw an opportunity, grabbed it, and hasn't let go since. And sometimes, especially during Halloween, truth can be even more satisfying than fiction. After selling Costumes.com, Getz experimented with other digital startups but quickly realized he worked best with retail. In 2012, he launched Wantable Incorporated, an online personal shopping service. In its first 4 years, Getz led the company to exceed 28,000% annual revenue growth and to hire more than 100 employees. Wantable has around 400 employees with revenues of $50 million and 2 Milwaukee locations.
Today's companies rely on managers to guide daily operations using human, technological, financial, and other resources to create a competitive advantage. For many beginning business students, being in management is an attractive but somewhat vague future goal. This vagueness is due in part to an incomplete understanding of what managers do and how they contribute to organizational success or failure. This chapter introduces the basic functions of management and the skills managers need to drive an organization toward its goals. We will also discuss how leadership styles influence a corporate culture and highlight the trends that are shaping the future role of managers.
Six point one: The role of management. Learning objective. What is the role of management?
Management is the process of guiding the development, maintenance, and allocation of resources to attain organizational goals. Managers are the people in the organization responsible for developing and carrying out this management process. Management is dynamic by nature and evolves to meet needs and constraints in the organization's internal and external environments. In a global marketplace where the rate of change is rapidly increasing, flexibility and adaptability are crucial to the managerial process. This process is based in 4 key functional areas of the organization: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Although these activities are discussed separately in the chapter, they actually form a tightly integrated cycle of processes and actions. From this perspective, the managerial process can be described as 1. Anticipating potential problems or opportunities and designing plans to deal with them. 2. Coordinating and allocating the resources needed to implement plans. 3. Guiding personnel through the implementation process. And 4. Reviewing results and making any necessary changes. This last stage provides information to be used in ongoing planning efforts, and thus, the cycle starts over again. The 4 functions are highly interdependent, with managers often performing more than one of them at a time, and each of them many times over the course of a normal workday. The 4 management functions can help managers increase organizational efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is using the least possible amount of resources to get work done, whereas effectiveness is the ability to produce a desired result. Managers need to be both efficient and effective in order to achieve organizational goals. For example, in 2025, Delta, one of the most efficient U.S. airlines, operated at revenue of 17.65 cents per seat mile, which is the revenue the company makes on one seat, occupied or not, for the distance of 1 mile. No other airline came close to operating this efficiently, except American Airlines, which flew seats that produced 16.93 cents a mile. There are many ways that airlines can manage to produce higher revenue per seat mile. For instance, they can raise ticket prices, fill more of their seats, operate more efficient aircraft that utilize less fuel, or negotiate favorable salaries with their employees. While efficiency and effectiveness are sometimes lauded by investors, airlines also need to account for customer satisfaction, which can mean extra costs. The growth of AI has prompted many organizations to evaluate how this technology can improve their operations. For example, Unilever is utilizing AI to increase efficiencies in their recruitment and hiring processes. These efforts have resulted in significant cost savings by reducing the time to hire by 90% and reducing the interview time by a total of 50,000 hours. IBM is seeing similar results with a 30% decrease in costs related to recruitment, and as of 2024, nearly 4 million hours of employee time had been saved in the recruitment process by incorporating AI. As these examples and Table 6.1 show, good management uses the 4 management functions to increase a company's efficiency and effectiveness, which leads to organizational efficiency and effectiveness, resulting in achievement of the organizational mission and objectives. Let's look more closely at what each of the management functions entails.
Table 6.1: What managers do and why. Planning. Managers set objectives and state mission. Examine alternatives. Determine needed resources. And create strategies to reach objectives. Leading. Managers lead and motivate employees to accomplish organizational goals. Communicate with employees. Resolve conflicts. And manage change. Organizing. Managers design jobs and specify tasks. Create organizational structure. Staff positions. Coordinate work activities. Set policies and procedures. And allocate resources. Controlling. Managers measure performance, compare performance to standards, and take necessary action to improve performance.
Concept check. Define the term management. What are the 4 key functions of managers? What is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness?
Six point two. Planning. Learning objective. What are the 4 types of planning?
Planning begins by anticipating potential problems or opportunities the organization may encounter. Managers then design strategies to solve current problems, prevent future problems, or take advantage of opportunities. These strategies serve as the foundation for goals, objectives, policies, and procedures. Put simply, planning is deciding what needs to be done to achieve organizational objectives, identifying when and how it will be done, and determining who should do it. Effective planning requires extensive information about the external business environment in which the firm competes, as well as its internal environment. There are 4 basic types of planning: strategic, tactical, operational, and contingency. Most of us use these different types of planning in our own lives. Some plans are very broad and long-term, more strategic in nature, such as planning to attend graduate school after earning a bachelor's degree. Some plans are much more specific and short-term, more operational in nature, such as planning to spend a few hours in the library this weekend. Your short-term plans support your long-term plans. If you study now, you have a better chance of achieving some future goal, such as getting a job interview or attending graduate school. Like you, organizations tailor their plans to meet the requirements of future situations or events. A summary of the 4 types of planning appears in Table 6.2. Strategic planning involves creating long-range, 1 to 5 years, broad goals for the organization and determining what resources will be needed to accomplish those goals. An evaluation of external environmental factors, such as economic, technological, and social issues, is critical to successful strategic planning. Strategic plans, such as the organization's long-term mission, are formulated by top-level managers and put into action at lower levels in the organization. For example, when co-founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia found themselves struggling with their rent expenses, they opened up their loft for guests to sleep on an air mattress as a way to generate income. That was the beginning of Airbnb. The team made the strategic decision to respond to current events, specifically the Democratic National Convention, to market their service for those who could not find hotel rooms for the event. Additional strategic decisions, such as international acquisitions, have launched their initiative into a global brand. Now, a company valued at over $80 billion, the strategic vision of the co-founders has made a significant impact on the travel industry.
Table 6.2. Types of planning. This table outlines the 4 primary ways an organization structures its goals and management. Strategic planning. Strategic planning is managed by top management, including CEO, vice presidents, directors, and division heads, to establish the mission and long-term goals for the entire organization and its external environment. It spans a time frame of 1 to 5 years, is broad and general in content, and involves a high degree of uncertainty. Tactical planning. Tactical planning is handled by middle management with a time frame of less than 1 year. It focuses on strategic business units to establish mid-range goals for implementation, resulting in more specific content and a moderate degree of certainty. Operational planning. Operational planning is the responsibility of supervisory management, focusing on current, day-to-day activity. These plans target geographic and functional divisions to implement and activate specific objectives, meaning they are specific, concrete, and maintain a reasonable degree of certainty. Contingency planning. Contingency planning is managed by both top and middle management. Unlike the others, its time frame is triggered when an event occurs or a situation demands it. It covers the entire organization and external environment to meet unforeseen challenges and opportunities, offering a mix of broad and detailed content and a reasonable degree of certainty once the situation occurs.
Catching the entrepreneurial spirit. Changing strategy can change your opportunities. Since 1949, Gordon Bernard, a customized fundraising printing company in Milford, Ohio, focused exclusively on printing fundraising calendars for a variety of clients, such as cities, schools, scout troops, and fire departments. The company's approximately 4,000 clients nationwide, 10% of which have been with the company for over 50 years, generated $4 million in revenue in 2006. In order to better serve customers, then company president Bob Sherman invested in the purchase of a top-end digital color printing machine so that the company could produce in-house parts of their products that they had been outsourcing. This purchase did more for the company than simply reduce costs, however. The new press gave the company four-color printing capability for the first time in its history, and that led the management of Gordon Bernard to rethink the company's strategy. The machine excels at short runs, which means that small batches of an item can be printed at a much lower cost than on a traditional press. The press also has the capability to customize every piece that rolls off the machine. For example, if a pet store wants to print 3,000 direct mail pieces, every single postcard can have a personalized greeting and text. Pieces targeted to bird owners can feature pictures of birds, whereas the dog owner's brochure will contain dog pictures. Text and pictures can be personalized for owners of show dogs, or overweight cats, or iguanas. Bob Sherman created a new division to oversee the implementation, training, marketing, and creative aspects of the new production process. The company even changed how it thinks of itself. No longer does Gordon Bernard consider itself a printing firm, but as a marketing services company with printing capabilities. That change in strategy prompted the company to seek more commercial work. For example, the company assists clients in developing customer databases and the collection of key information they need to know. Because calendar products are seasonal, these additional services provide revenue during the off-peak periods. This gives the company additional income-producing product/service areas to provide a suite of products to their clients and to diversify the company's revenue streams. Critical thinking questions. 1. What type of planning do you think Gordon Bernard is doing? 2. Because Gordon Bernard's strategy changed only after it purchased the iGen 3, does the shift constitute strategic planning? Why or why not?
An organization's mission is formalized in its mission statement, a document that states the purpose of the organization and its reason for existing. For example, the mission statement for Whole Foods formalizes these concepts.
Whole Foods mission, values, and declaration of interdependence. Mission. Our purpose is to nourish people and the planet. We're a purpose-driven company that aims to set the standards of excellence for food retailers. Quality is a state of mind at Whole Foods Market. Values. Whole Foods' core values consist of 6 elements that define what the company stands for and will not compromise regardless of the situation. Highest quality, all natural and organic foods. Customer satisfaction. Promoting the growth and happiness of employees and stakeholders. Win-win partnerships. Profitability and prosperity for all. Promoting community health, nutrition, and welfare. Declaration of interdependence. Whole Foods Market acknowledges that it has come this far by depending on its customers, employees, suppliers, stakeholders, and the resources provided by Mother Earth. Going forward, it will not attain its aspirations without their support again. Subsequently, it also recognizes its obligations and responsibility to all parties and stakeholders that depend on the company, promising to prioritize and advance their interests.
In all organizations, plans and goals at the tactical and operational levels should clearly support the organization's mission statement. Tactical planning begins the implementation of strategic plans. Tactical plans have a shorter, less than 1 year, time frame than strategic plans and more specific objectives designed to support the broader strategic goals. Tactical plans begin to address issues of coordinating and allocating resources to different parts of the organization. Under co-founders Bebbia and Chesky's direction, new tactical plans were implemented to support Airbnb's new strategic direction. For example, the company's market shifted from merely home sharing to vacation/short-term rental options that included entire homes and luxury vacation options. In another strategic move to offer more value to customers, Airbnb acquired Nabewise in 2012. Nabewise is a city guide platform that helps individuals navigate neighborhoods and what they have to offer. This acquisition is an additional layer of service to offer to customers when they are booking spaces they are unfamiliar with. Other tactical plans included acquiring both a travel agency and a search engine that helped expand their networks. The company sought out partnerships to ensure the longevity of their service. For example, they signed a 9-year partnership set to expire in 2028 with the International Olympic Committee to provide alternative housing for athletes. Operational planning creates specific standards, methods, policies, and procedures that are used in specific functional areas of the organization. Operational objectives are current, narrow, and resource-focused. They are designed to help guide and control the implementation of tactical plans. In an industry where new versions of software have widely varying development cycles, Autodesk, a leading developer of design and engineering software used in architecture, manufacturing, construction, and media production, implemented new operational plans that dramatically increased profits. Former CEO Carol Bartz shifted the company away from the erratic release schedule it had been keeping to regular annual software releases. By releasing upgrades on a defined and predictable schedule, the company is able to use annual subscription pricing, which is more affordable for small and mid-sized companies. The predictability of software releases keeps Autodesk customers current with the most recent versions of the software, and also allows the customers to more accurately budget and track expenses related to software adoption. The key to effective planning is anticipating future situations and events. Yet even the best prepared organization must sometimes cope with unforeseen circumstances, such as a natural disaster, a cyber attack, or a radical new technology. Therefore, many companies have developed contingency plans that identify alternative courses of action for very unusual or crisis situations. The contingency plan typically stipulates the chain of command, standard operating procedures, and communication channels the organization will use during an emergency. An effective contingency plan can make or break a company. Consider the example of Marriott Hotels in Puerto Rico. Anticipating Hurricane Erin in 2025, workers at the San Juan Marriott had to shift from their regular duties to handling the needs of not only customers, but everyone who needed assistance in the wake of the hurricane that devastated the island. A contingency plan and training for events such as this were a key part of managing this crisis. The company achieved its goal of being able to cater to guest and general needs due to planning and training while having a contingency plan in place. One guest commented on TripAdvisor, "Could not believe how friendly, helpful, and responsive staff were even during height of hurricane." Special thanks to Heidi, Juan, Jock, Ashley, and Security Luis. They kept us safe and were exemplary. We'll always stay at Marriott from now on. Within 1 month after Hurricane Maria hit, operations were back to normal at the San Juan Marriott.
Managing change. Boeing takes off in new direction. Boeing and Airbus have been locked in fierce competition for the world's airplane business for decades. What characterized most of that time period was a focus on designing larger and larger airplanes. Since its development in the 1970s, Boeing revamped its pioneering B-747 numerous times, and at one time boasted over 1,300 of the jumbo jets in operation around the world. As part of this head-to-head competition for bragging rights to the largest jet in the air, Boeing was working on a 747X, a super jumbo jet designed to hold 525 passengers. In what seemed to be an abrupt change of strategy, Boeing conceded the super jumbo segment of the market to its rival and killed plans for the 747X. Instead of trying to create a plane with more seats, Boeing engineers began developing planes to fly fewer people at higher speeds. Then, as the rising price of jet fuel surpassed the airline's ability to easily absorb its increasing cost, Boeing again changed its strategy, this time focusing on developing jets that use less fuel. In the end, Boeing's strategy changed from plane capacity to jet efficiency. The new strategy required new plans. Boeing managers identified gaps in Airbus's product line and immediately set out to develop planes to fill them. Boeing announced a new 787 Dreamliner, which boasted better fuel efficiency thanks to lightweight composite materials and next-generation engine design. Even though the 787 has less than half the seating of the Airbus A380, Boeing's Dreamliner is a hit in the market. Orders for the plane have been stronger than anticipated, forcing Boeing to change its production plans to meet demand. The company decided to accelerate its planned 787 production rate buildup, rolling out a new jet every 2 days or so. Airbus was not so lucky. The company spent so much time and energy on its super jumbo that its A350, the plane designed to compete with Boeing's 787, suffered. The 787 uses less fuel than the A350, and because it is a lighter aircraft, it can operate more efficiently. The battle for airline supremacy continues to switch between the two global giants. Combined, the two companies hold over 75% of the global aircraft market. In 2025, Airbus beat Boeing on several measures, including profits and aircraft orders. Airbus delivered nearly 800 jets in 2025, with Boeing delivering only 537. Boeing struggled with production and quality issues. Critical thinking questions. 1. What seems to be the difference in how Boeing and Airbus have approached planning? 2. Do you think Airbus should change its strategic plans to meet Boeing's, or stick with its current plans? Explain.
Concept check. 1. What is the purpose of planning, and what is needed to do it effectively? 2. Identify the unique characteristics of each type of planning.
Six point 3. Organizing. Learning objective. What are the primary functions of managers in organizing activities?
A second key function of managers is organizing, which is the process of coordinating and allocating a firm's resources in order to carry out its plans. Organizing includes developing a structure for the people, positions, departments, and activities within the firm. Managers can arrange the structural elements of the firm to maximize the flow of information and the efficiency of work processes. They accomplish this by doing the following. 1. Dividing up tasks. Division of labor. 2. Grouping jobs and employees. Departmentalization. 3. Assigning authority and responsibilities. Delegation. These and other elements of organizational structure are discussed in detail elsewhere. In this chapter, however, you should understand the 3 levels of a managerial hierarchy. This hierarchy is often depicted as a pyramid, as in Exhibit 6.3. The fewest managers are found at the highest level of the pyramid. Called top management, they are the small group of people at the head of the organization, such as the CEO, president, and vice president. Top-level managers develop strategic plans and address long-range issues, such as which industries to compete in, how to capture market share, and what to do with profits. These managers design and approve the firm's basic policies and represent the firm to other organizations. They also define the company's values and ethics, and thus set the tone for employee standards of behavior. For example, Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, and often cited as a great leader, was a role model for his managers and executives. Admirers say that he had an extraordinary capacity to inspire hundreds of thousands of people in many countries, and he could change the direction of a huge organization like General Electric as if it were a small firm. Following his leadership, General Electric's executives turned in impressive results. During his tenure, General Electric's market value increased from $14 billion to $600 billion, giving increased returns to GE shareholders. The second and third tiers of the hierarchy are called middle management and supervisory, first-line management, respectively. Middle managers, such as division heads, departmental managers, and regional sales managers, are responsible for implementing strategic plans. They design and carry out tactical plans in specific areas of the company. They begin the process of allocating resources to meet organizational goals, and they oversee supervisory managers throughout the firm. Supervisors, the most numerous of the managerial pyramid, these managers design and carry out operational plans for the ongoing daily activities of the firm. They spend a great deal of their time guiding and motivating the employees who actually produce the goods and services.
Concept check. 1. Explain the managerial function of organizing. 2. What is the managerial pyramid?
6.4. Leading, guiding, and motivating others. Learning objective. How do leadership styles influence a corporate culture?
Leadership, the third key management function, is the process of guiding and motivating others toward the achievement of organizational goals. A leader can be anyone in an organization, regardless of position, able to influence others to act or follow, often by their own choice. Managers are designated leaders according to the organizational structure, but may need to use negative consequences or coercion to achieve change. In the organization structure, top managers use leadership skills to set, share, and gain support for the company's direction and strategy, mission, vision, and values, such as Carol Tome does at UPS. Middle and supervisory management use leadership skills in the process of directing employees on a daily basis as the employees carry out the plans and work within the structure created by management. Tome demonstrates strong leadership and communication skills, such as those exhibited by Jack Welch while leading General Electric, and led to many studies of his approach to leadership. Organizations, however, need strong, effective leadership at all levels in order to meet goals and remain competitive. To be effective leaders, managers must be able to influence others' behaviors. This ability to influence others to behave in a particular way is called power. Researchers have identified 5 primary sources or bases of power. Legitimate power, which is derived from an individual's position in an organization. Reward power, which is derived from an individual's control over rewards. Coercive power, which is derived from an individual's ability to threaten negative outcomes. Expert power, which is derived from an individual's extensive knowledge in one or more areas. Referent power, which is derived from an individual's personal charisma, and the respect and/or admiration the individual inspires. Many leaders use a combination of all of these sources of power to influence individuals toward goal achievement. While CEO of Procter & Gamble, A.G. Lafley got his legitimate power from his then position. His reward power came from reviving the company and making the stock more valuable. Also, raises and bonus for managers who met their goals was another form of reward power. Lafley also was not hesitant to use his coercive power. He eliminated thousands of jobs, sold underperforming brands, and killed weak product lines. With nearly 40 years of service to the company, Lafley had a unique authority when it came to P&G's products, markets, innovations, and customers. The company's sales doubled during his 9 years as CEO. and its portfolio of brands increased from 10 to 23. He captained the purchase of Clairol, Wella Agi, and IAMS, as well as the multi-billion-dollar merger with Gillette. As a result, Lafley had a substantial amount of referent power. Lafley has been widely regarded in the global business community as one of the leading CEOs of his era, frequently cited for his consumer-centric strategy and turnaround of P&G. Anne Gillen Lefevre, a managing director at Lehman Brothers, said, "Lafley is a leader who is liked. His directives are very simple. He sets a strategy that everybody understands, and that is more difficult than he gets credit for." Leadership styles. Individuals in leadership positions tend to be relatively consistent in the way they attempt to influence the behavior of others, meaning that each individual has a tendency to react to people and situations in a particular way. This pattern of behavior is referred to as leadership style. As Table 6.4 shows, leadership styles can be placed on a continuum that encompasses three distinct styles: autocratic, participative, and free rein. Autocratic leaders are directive leaders, allowing for very little input from subordinates. These leaders prefer to make decisions and solve problems on their own, and expect subordinates to implement solutions according to very specific and detailed instructions. In this leadership style, information typically flows in one direction, from manager to subordinate. The military, by necessity, is generally autocratic. When autocratic leaders treat employees with fairness and respect, they may be considered knowledgeable and decisive. But often, autocrats are perceived as narrow-minded and heavy-handed in their unwillingness to share power, information, and decision-making in the organization. The trend in organizations today is away from the directive, controlling style of the autocratic leader. Instead, U.S. businesses are looking more and more for participative leaders, meaning leaders who share decision-making with group members and encourage discussion of issues and alternatives. Participative leaders use a democratic, consensual, consultative style. One CEO known for her participative leadership style is Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors. Barra creates a culture at GM where input from employees at any level is valued. She has enhanced leadership transparency and created a system where employees can report problems in the manufacturing process. Barra routinely seeks input from employees during town hall-style meetings. The input received is used to develop the overall company direction. Barra was the first woman CEO of a global automaker. She has stated that her vision is to make GM the most inclusive employer in the world.
Table 6.4. Leadership styles of managers. This table explores three distinct styles of leadership: the autocratic style, the participative style, and the free rein style.
The autocratic style. Leaders turn over most authority to subordinates. Manager makes most decisions and acts in authoritative manner. Manager is usually unconcerned about subordinates' attitudes toward decisions. Emphasis is on getting task accomplished. Approach is used mostly by military officers and some production line supervisors.
The participative style, also known as the democratic consensual or consultative style. Leaders hold most authority and allow subordinates very little authority. Manager shares decision-making with group members and encourages teamwork. Manager encourages discussion of issues and alternatives. Manager is concerned about subordinates' ideas and attitudes. Manager coaches subordinates and helps coordinate efforts. Approach is found in many successful organizations.
The free rein style, also known as laissez-faire style, leaders and subordinates collaboratively share authority. Manager turns over virtually all authority and control to group. Members of group are presented with tasks and given freedom to accomplish it. Approach works well with highly motivated, experienced, educated personnel. Approach is found in high-tech firms, labs, and colleges.
Ethics in practice. Scott Stevenson, Balancing the Duality of Ethics. Whether it's defrauding investors, creating fake accounts, or using unfair pricing strategies, it seems like there is never a shortage of ethical issues being an important aspect of business. As shown by these examples, unethical decisions permeate different parts of the business and occur for different reasons. For example, Bernie Madoff used a Ponzi scheme to defraud customers about the expected returns on investments with his company. The result was significant financial losses for thousands of customers. At Wells Fargo, pressure from managers to meet new account quotas prompted employees to create fictional accounts in the names of actual customers. These fake accounts bolstered the company's business portfolio to outside investors. The case of Mylan included the dramatic rise in the price of the EpiPen in a short time span, and reports that CEO Heather Bresch and other executives received compensation that increased over 700% during the same timeframe. Adding to the Mylan case was the fact that Bresch's father is West Virginia Senator Joseph Manchin, and prior to being appointed CEO at Mylan, Bresch served as Mylan's chief lobbyist and helped craft the Generic Drug User Fee Amendments and the School Access to Emergency Epinephrine Act. Where does the responsibility of managing ethical behavior in organizations reside? The answer is everyone in the organization is responsible to act in an ethical manner. The primary responsibility resides, however, with the CEO and also with the Chief Financial Officer, who has the responsibility to oversee financial compliance with laws and regulations. Scott Stevenson, the former CEO of Verisk Analytics, commented on how he approached the duality of what he termed a loose-tight approach to leadership, where he provided his employees with the discretion and responsibility to make critical decisions in crisis situations where ethics might be involved. That's the loose part. He also worked on communicating and building trust in his employees so that he had the confidence they would act responsibly and make the correct decisions in crisis situations. That's the tight part of his leadership duality. Critical thinking questions. 1. Do you think Verisk Analytics, a technology company that needs innovation breakthroughs, benefits from Stevenson's loose-tight approach? What if Stevenson had been an autocratic leader? Explain your reasoning. 2. What kind of participative leader, described below, does Stevenson seem to be? Explain your choice.
Participative leadership has three types: democratic, consensual, and consultative. Democratic leaders solicit input from all members of the group and then allow the group members to make the final decision through a voting process. This approach works well with highly trained professionals. The president of a physician's clinic might use the democratic approach. Consensual leaders encourage discussion about issues and then require that all parties involved agree to the final decision. This is the general style used by labor mediators. Consultative leaders confer with subordinates before making a decision, but retain the final decision-making authority. This technique has been used to dramatically increase the productivity of assembly line workers. The third leadership style, at the opposite end of the continuum from the autocratic style, is free rein or laissez-faire, French for leave it alone, leadership. Managers who use this style turn over all authority and control to subordinates. Employees are assigned a task and then given free rein to figure out the best way to accomplish it. The manager doesn't get involved unless asked. Under this approach, subordinates have unlimited freedom as long as they do not violate existing company policies. This approach is also sometimes used with highly trained professionals, as in a research laboratory. Although one might at first assume that subordinates would prefer the free rein style, this approach can have several drawbacks. If free rein leadership is accompanied by unclear expectations and lack of feedback from the manager, the experience can be frustrating for an employee. Employees may perceive the manager as being uninvolved and indifferent to what is happening, or as unwilling or unable to provide the necessary structure, information, and expertise. No leadership style is effective all the time. Effective leaders recognize employee growth and use situational leadership, selecting a leadership style that matches the maturity and competency levels of those completing the tasks. Newly hired employees may respond well to authoritative leadership until they understand the job requirements and show the ability to handle routine decisions. Once established, however, those sane employees may start to feel undervalued and perform better under a participative or free-rein leadership style. Using situational leadership empowers employees, as discussed next. Employee empowerment. Participative and free-rein leaders use a technique called empowerment to share decision-making authority with subordinates. Empowerment means giving employees increased autonomy and discretion to make their own decisions, as well as control over the resources needed to implement those decisions. When decision-making power is shared at all levels of the organization, employees feel a greater sense of ownership in and responsibility for organizational outcomes. Management use of employee empowerment is on the rise. This increased level of involvement comes from the realization that people at all levels in the organization possess unique knowledge, skills, and abilities that can be of great value to the company. For example, when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, 5 miles of railroad tracks were ripped off a bridge connecting New Orleans to Slidell, Louisiana. Without the tracks, which fell into Lake Pontchartrain, Norfolk Southern Railroad couldn't transport products between the east and west coasts. Before the storm hit, however, Jeff McCracken, a chief engineer at the company, traveled to Birmingham with equipment he thought he might need, and then to Slidell with 100 employees. After conferring with dozens of company engineers and 3 bridge companies, McCracken decided to try to rescue the miles of track from the lake. Building new tracks would have taken several weeks at the least. To do so, he gathered 365 engineers, machine operators, and other workers who lined up 8 huge cranes and, over the course of several hours, lifted the 5 miles of sunken tracks in one piece out of the lake and bolted it back on the bridge. By giving employees the autonomy to make decisions and access to required resources, Norfolk Southern was able to avoid serious interruptions in its nationwide service. Corporate culture. The leadership style of managers in an organization is usually indicative of the underlying philosophy or values of the organization. The set of attitudes, values, and standards of behavior that distinguishes one organization from another is called corporate culture. A corporate culture evolves over time and is based on the accumulated history of the organization, including the vision of the founders. It is also influenced by the dominant leadership style within the organization. Evidence of a company's culture is seen in its heroes. For example, the late Andy Grove of Intel. Myths, stories about the company passed from employee to employee. Symbols, like the Nike swoosh. And ceremonies. The culture at Google, working in teams and fostering innovation, sometimes is overlooked, while its employee perks are drooled over. But both are important to the company's corporate culture. Alphabet, Google's parent company, ranked first on Fortune's 100 Best Companies to Work For list 8 times, and appeared on the list every year from 2006 through 2018, based on employee surveys conducted by Great Place to Work. We have never forgotten since our startup days that great things happen more frequently within the right culture and environment, a company spokesperson said in response to the company first taking over the top spot. Culture may be intangible, but it has a tremendous impact on employee morale and a company's success. Google approaches morale analytically. When it found that parents were leaving the company in higher rates than other employee groups, the company improved its parental leave policies. The result was a reduction in attrition for working parents. An analytical approach, along with culture-building activities, such as town hall-style meetings with diverse groups of employees, support for underrepresented groups, and workshops for all employees around unconscious biases are some of the top reasons employees say Alphabet is a safe and inclusive place to work. Clearly, Google leaders recognize culture is critical to the company's overall success.
Concept check. 1. How do leaders influence other people's behavior? 2. How can managers empower employees? 3. What is corporate culture?
Six 6.5 Controlling. Learning objective. How do organizations control activities?
The fourth key function that managers perform is controlling. Controlling is the process of assessing the organization's progress toward accomplishing its goals. It includes monitoring the implementation of a plan and correcting deviations from that plan. As Exhibit 6.6 shows, controlling can be visualized as a cyclical process made up of 5 stages.
Exhibit 6.6. The control process. This diagram, titled The Control Process, illustrates an iterative, 5-step cycle that organizations use to monitor and adjust performance. Step 1. The process begins by setting performance standards and goals. Step 2. Once those are in place, the organization measures performance. Step 3. The organization then compares actual performance to those established performance standards. Step 4. Based on that comparison, the organization takes corrective action. Step 5. Finally, the organization uses information gained from this process to set up future performance standards, which restarts the cycle.
Performance standards are the levels of performance the company wants to attain. These goals are based on its strategic, tactical, and operational plans. The most effective performance standards state a measurable behavioral objective that can be achieved in a specified timeframe. For example, the performance objective for the sales division of a company could be stated as $200,000 in gross sales for the month of January. Each individual employee in that division would also have a specified performance goal. Actual firm, division, or individual performance can be measured against desired performance standards to see if a gap exists between the desired level of performance and the actual level of performance. If a performance gap does exist, the reason for it must be determined and corrective action taken. Feedback is essential to the process of control. Most companies have a reporting system that identifies areas where performance standards are not being met. A feedback system helps managers detect problems before they get out of hand. If a problem exists, the managers take corrective action. General Motors uses a simple but effective control system in its manufacturing plants. Each employee is empowered to act as a quality control inspector and encouraged to report problems as they might arise. If a part is defective or not installed properly, any employee can report this inconsistency. Promoting a culture of employee participation in reporting problems helps ensure quality products while also promoting teamwork across the organization. Why is controlling such an important part of the manager's job? First, it helps managers to determine the success of the other 3 functions: planning, organizing, and leading. Second, control systems direct employee behavior toward achieving organizational goals. Third, control systems provide a means of coordinating employee activities and integrating resources throughout the organization.
Concept check. 1. Describe the control process. 2. Why is the control process important to the success of the organization?
Six 6.6. Managerial roles. Learning objective. What roles do managers take on in different organizational settings?
In carrying out the responsibilities of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, managers take on many different roles. A role is a set of behavioral expectations, or a set of activities that a person is expected to perform. Managers' roles fall into 3 basic categories: informational roles, interpersonal roles, and decisional roles. These roles are summarized in Table 6.5. In an informational role, the manager may act as an information gatherer, an information distributor, or a spokesperson for the company. A manager's interpersonal roles are based on various interactions with other people. Depending on the situation, a manager may need to act as a figurehead, a company leader, or a liaison. When acting in a decisional role, a manager may have to think like an entrepreneur, make decisions about resource allocation, help resolve conflicts, or negotiate compromises. Managerial decision-making. In every function performed, role taken on, and set of skills applied, a manager is a decision-maker. Decision-making means choosing among alternatives. Decision-making occurs in response to the identification of a problem or an opportunity. The decisions managers make fall into two basic categories: programmed and non-programmed. Programmed decisions are made in response to routine situations that occur frequently in a variety of settings throughout an organization. For example, the need to hire new personnel is a common situation for most organizations. Therefore, standard procedures for recruitment and selection are developed and followed in most companies.
Table 6.5. The many roles managers play in an organization. According to Table 6.5, managers play a variety of roles that can be grouped into three main categories: information roles, interpersonal roles, and decisional roles. 1. Information roles. These roles focus on how a manager handles data. Monitor. Seeks out and gathers information relevant to the organization, such as finding out about legal restrictions on new product technology. Disseminator. Provides information where it is needed in the organization, like providing current production figures to workers on an assembly line. Spokesperson. Transmits information to people outside the organization, such as representing the company at a shareholders meeting.
2. Interpersonal roles. These roles center on the manager's interactions with others. Figurehead. Represents the company in a symbolic way, like cutting the ribbon at a ceremony for the opening of a new building. Leader. Guides and motivates employees to achieve organizational goals, such as helping subordinates set monthly performance goals. Liaison. Acts as a go-between among individuals inside and outside the organization, like representing a retail sales division at a regional sales meeting.
3. Decisional roles. Finally, these roles involve the manager's decision-making responsibilities. Entrepreneur. Searches out new opportunities and initiates change, such as implementing a new production process using new technology. Disturbance handler. Handles unexpected events and crises, like managing a situation such as a fire. Resource allocator. Designates the use of financial, human, and other organizational resources, such as approving funds to purchase computer equipment and hire personnel. Negotiator. Represents the company at negotiating processes, like participating in salary negotiations with union representatives.
Infrequent, unforeseen, or very unusual problems and opportunities require non-programmed decisions by managers. Because these situations are unique and complex, the manager rarely has a precedent to follow. The earlier example of the Norfolk Southern employee who had to decide the best way to salvage a 5-mile-long piece of railroad track from the bottom of Lake Pontchartrain is an example of a non-programmed decision. Likewise, when Hurricane Katrina was forecast to make landfall, Thomas Orek, then CEO of the Orek Vacuum Company that bears his family's name, had to make a series of non-programmed decisions. Orek's corporate headquarters were in New Orleans, and its primary manufacturing facility was in Long Beach, Mississippi. Before the storm hit, Orek transferred its computer systems and call center operations to backup locations in Colorado and planned to move headquarters to Long Beach. The storm, however, brutally hit both locations. Orek executives began searching for lost employees, tracking down generators, assembling temporary housing for workers, and making deals with UPS to begin distributing its product. UPS brought food and water to Orek from Atlanta and took vacuums back to the company's distribution center there. All of these decisions were made in the middle of a very challenging crisis environment. Whether a decision is programmed or non-programmed, managers typically follow 5 steps in the decision-making process, as illustrated in Exhibit 6.7. 1. Recognize or define the problem or opportunity. Although it is more common to focus on problems because of their obvious negative effects, managers who do not take advantage of new opportunities may lose competitive advantage to other firms. 2. Gather information so as to identify alternative solutions or actions. 3. Select one or more alternatives after evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of each possibility. 4. Put the chosen alternative into action. 5. Gather information to obtain feedback on the effectiveness of the chosen plan. It can be easy and dangerous for managers to get stuck at any stage of the decision-making process. For example, entrepreneurs can become paralyzed evaluating the options. For Gabby Sloan, the co-founder of natural pet food maker Ollie, the idea for starting the company came after her rescue dog began having trouble digesting store-bought pet food after living on scraps. Sloan decided that the pet food industry, a $45 billion a year business in the United States, was ripe for a natural food alternative. She laments, however, that she let perfect be the enemy of the very good by indulging in analysis paralysis.
Exhibit 6.7. The decision-making process. This exhibit illustrates the 5-step progression of the decision-making process. Step 1. The process begins by defining the problem. Step 2. Next, identify possible solutions. Step 3. Then, select one or more alternatives. Step 4. After selection, put the plan into action. Step 5. Finally, follow up to see if the problem has been solved.
Concept check. 1. What are the 3 types of managerial roles? 2. Give examples of things managers might do when acting in each of the different types of roles. 3. List the 5 steps in the decision-making process.
Six 6.7. Managerial Skills. Learning objective. What set of managerial skills is necessary for managerial success?
In order to be successful in planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, managers must use a wide variety of skills. A skill is the ability to do something proficiently. Managerial skills fall into 3 basic categories: technical, human relations, and conceptual skills. The degree to which each type of skill is used depends upon the level of the manager's position, as seen in Exhibit 6.8. Additionally, in an increasingly global marketplace, it pays for managers to develop a special set of skills to deal with global management issues.
Exhibit 6.8. The importance of managerial skills at different management levels. This exhibit illustrates the importance of 3 key managerial skills across different levels of management, using color intensity to represent their varying levels of importance. Top management. Conceptual skills are very important. Human skills are also very important. Technical skills are the least important at this level. Middle management. Conceptual skills are moderately important. Human skills remain very important. Technical skills are also moderately important. Supervisory management. Conceptual skills are the least important. Human skills continue to be very important. Technical skills are the most important at this level.
Technical skills. Specialized areas of knowledge and expertise, and the ability to apply that knowledge make up a manager's technical skills. Preparing a financial statement, programming a computer, designing an office building, and analyzing market research are all examples of technical skills. These types of skills are especially important for supervisory managers because they work closely with employees who are producing the goods and/or services of the firm. Human relations skills. Human relations skills are the interpersonal skills managers use to accomplish goals through the use of human resources. This set of skills includes the ability to understand human behavior, to communicate effectively with others, and to motivate individuals to accomplish their objectives. Giving positive feedback to employees, being sensitive to their individual needs, and showing a willingness to empower subordinates are all examples of good human relation skills. Identifying and promoting managers with human relation skills are important for companies. A manager with little or no people skills can end up using an authoritarian leadership style and alienating employees. Conceptual skills. Conceptual skills include the ability to view the organization as a whole, understand how the various parts are interdependent, and assess how the organization relates to its external environment. These skills allow managers to evaluate situations and develop alternative courses of action. Good conceptual skills are especially necessary for managers at the top of the management pyramid, where strategic planning takes place.
Concept check. 1. Define the basic managerial skills. 2. How important is each of these skill sets at the different levels of the management pyramid?
Six point eight. Trends in management and leadership. Learning objective. What trends will affect management in the future?
3 key trends in management today are crisis management, technological advancements, and the increasing need for global management skills. Crisis management. Crises, both internal and external, can hit even the best managed organization. Sometimes organizations can anticipate crises, in which case managers develop contingency plans, and sometimes they can't. Take, for example, the sudden death of McDonald's CEO Jim Cantalupo. The company had a solid succession plan in place and immediately named Charlie Bell as new CEO. Only a few months later, Bell announced that he had terminal cancer. Even though the company had prepared for the event of its leader's untimely death, surely it couldn't have anticipated that his successor would also be stricken by a terminal illness at almost the same time. Likewise, consider the devastation caused by the wildfires in Los Angeles in 2025 or the flooding and mudslides in North Carolina as a result of Tropical Storm Helene in 2024. Part of crisis management plans at hotels, for example, could include relaxing no pets policies to allow customers needing shelter as a result of a natural disaster to keep their pets with them in the hotel. Crises cannot be fully anticipated, but managers can develop contingency plans to help navigate through the aftermath of a disaster. For example, consider the challenges that faced Rajiv Joseph, the author of several plays, including Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, who was in Houston preparing to open his new play, described the night at the Alley Theater when Hurricane Harvey hit and flooded the theater a few weeks prior to opening night. The 6 New York-based actors, the director, the stage manager, and Joseph decided to help in the relief efforts and made their way to the George Brown Convention Center, which had become the central location for relief efforts. When they arrived and the staffers discovered they were theater artists, they were deployed to handle the writing and deployment of public address announcements and manage the incoming crowds. What made the relief efforts successful was planning, matching the skill sets of volunteers with tasks they are best able to perform. Even though those in charge of the relief efforts had contingency plans, they still needed to make dozens of non-programmed decisions to effectively manage the ever-changing situation. No manager or executive can be completely prepared for these types of unexpected crises. However, how a manager responds to the situation can mean the difference between being able to survive the crisis or disaster versus not being able to recover from the event, and the business eventually ceasing to operate. No matter the crisis, there are some basic guidelines managers should follow to minimize negative outcomes. Managers should not become immobilized by the problem or ignore it. Managers should face the problem head on. Managers should always tell the truth about the situation and then put the best people on the job to correct the problem. Managers should ask for help if they need it. And finally, Managers must learn from the experience to avoid the same problem in the future. Table 6.6 describes what CEOs and other leaders learned about crisis management. Managers and advances in technology. The second trend having a major impact on managers is the proliferation of data and analytics in information technology. An increasing number of organizations are selling technology, and an increasing number are looking for cutting-edge technology to make and market the products and services they sell. One particularly useful type of technology is AI, artificial intelligence. AI is being utilized across industries, from education to healthcare to manufacturing. Customer service bots are now used to solve many complaints from customers. AI assistance is used to screen resumes quickly and to facilitate onboarding activities to enhance recruiting efficiencies and reduce costs. The technology assists healthcare workers with routine administrative tasks, such as billing and scheduling. AI tutors are assisting teachers and students alike. Overall, AI technologies are impacting employee productivity as tools continue to be developed to assist employees with work tasks.
Table 6.6. Lessons leaders learned about managing crises. This table summarizes some of the key lessons learned by successful business leaders. Howard Schultz, former chairman of Starbucks. Learn from one crisis at a time. After the Seattle earthquake of 2001, the company invested in a notification system that could handle text messaging. The night before Hurricane Katrina hit, Starbucks sent out 2,300 phone calls to associates in the region, telling them about available resources.
Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors. Redirect efforts. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Barra was able to mobilize the company to redirect their options to producing much-needed hospital ventilators. This move was critical for the healthcare system, but also kept the company earning money.
J.W. Marriott, former CEO of Marriott. Communicate for safety. Marriott moved its email system out of New Orleans before Katrina hit. As a result, employees were able to communicate with each other and vendors to get food and water to affected areas. A massive publicity campaign helped the company find 2,500 of its 2,800 people in the region.
Sonia Singhal, former CEO of Gap. Listen to your people. To better understand employees in the retail sector of their business, Singhal started company-wide listening tours so that she could better understand the challenges they were facing during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Anne Mulcahy, former CEO of Xerox. Forge a turnaround. Xerox was in serious debt and near bankruptcy when Anne Mulcahy was appointed CEO. She went to work to turn the company around by instituting cost-cutting measures and focusing on product innovations. Company net income went from around $90 million to over $850 million in 1 year.
Cint Marshall, former CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. Make meaningful change. Marshall took over when the organization was under scrutiny for workplace harassment and sexual misconduct issues. Her mission was clear: transform the culture and rebuild the organization's image. She navigated the public image crises while maintaining profitability.
Such integrated functionality made dashboards extremely popular. A Gartner commentary suggests that companies put data and analytics at the heart of every company business decision. Despite the increasing popularity of dashboard technology, the control tool has some drawbacks, such as focusing too intently on short-term results and ignoring the overall progress toward long-term goals. And some employees might bristle at being monitored as closely as dashboard tools allow. Nonetheless, companies are seeing real results from implementing dashboard software. Robert Romanoff, an estate planning partner and past managing partner at the Chicago law firm Levenfeld Perlstein, uses dashboards that aggregate client and firm data to guide decision-making. Managing multinational cultures. The increasing globalization of the world market has created a need for managers who have global management skills. That is, the ability to operate in diverse cultural environments. With more and more companies choosing to do business in multiple locations around the world, employees are often required to learn the geography, language, and social customs of other cultures. It is expensive to train employees for foreign assignments and pay their relocation costs. Therefore, choosing the right person for the job is especially important. Individuals who are open-minded, flexible, willing to try new things, and comfortable in a multicultural setting are good candidates for international management positions. As companies expand around the globe, managers will continue to face the challenges of directing the behavior of employees around the world. They must recognize that because of cultural differences, people respond to similar situations in very different ways. The burden, therefore, falls on the manager to produce results while adapting to the differences among the employees they manage. How a manager gets results, wins respect, and leads employees varies greatly among countries, cultures, and individuals. For example, different cultures have different approaches to time. Many Western countries, such as the United States and Germany, view time in a linear pattern where the past leads to the future. There is an emphasis on goal setting and progress. Alternatively, some indigenous cultures view time as more cyclical, with an eye toward the interconnectedness of events. The focus is on continuity and a sense of patience as time evolves through seasons. A U.S. manager with a linear view of time will approach scheduling planning with a different approach than colleagues with a multi-active or cyclic approach. Despite differences such as these, examples of which can be cited for every country in the world, managing within a different culture is only an extension of what managers do every day, working with differences in employees, processes, and projects.
Concept check. 1. How can information technology aid in decision making? 2. What are 3 principles of managing multinational cultures? 3. Describe several guidelines for crisis management.
Preparing for tomorrow's workplace skills. 1. Would you be a good manager? Do a self-assessment that includes your current technical, human relations, and conceptual skills. What skills do you already possess? And which do you need to add? Where do your strengths lie? Based on this exercise, develop a description of an effective manager. 2. Successful managers map out what they want to do with their time, planning, determine the activities and tasks they need to accomplish in that time frame, organizing, and make sure they stay on track, controlling. How well do you manage your time? Do you think ahead, or do you tend to procrastinate? Examine how you use your time and identify at least 3 areas where you can improve your time management skills. 3. Often researchers cast leadership in an inspirational role in a company and management in more of an administrative role. That tendency seems to put leadership and management in a hierarchy. Do you think one is more important than the other? Do you think a company can succeed if it has bad managers and good leaders? What about if it has good managers and bad leaders? Are managers and leaders actually the same? 4. Today's managers must be comfortable using all kinds of technology. Do an inventory of your computer skills and identify any gaps. After listing your areas of weakness, make a plan to increase your computer competency by enrolling in a computer class on or off campus. You may want to practice using common business applications, such as a spreadsheet program to track your budget, creating presentation slides for your next class project, or utilizing a calendar program to manage your semester assignments. 5. Team activity. One of the most common types of planning that managers do is operational planning, or the creation of policies, procedures, and rules and regulations. Assemble a team of 3 classmates and work together to draft an operational plan that addresses employee attendance, or absenteeism.
Ethics activity. Are top executives paid too much? A study of CEO compensation raised many questions from investors and others. CEO pay for S&P 500 companies in 2024 was 285 to 1 as compared to the average worker. That is considerably larger than the ratio in the late 1980s, which was around 60 to 1. The Securities and Exchange Commission now requires public companies to disclose full details of executive compensation, including salaries, bonuses, pensions, benefits, stock options, and severance and retirement packages. Even some CEOs question the high levels of CEO pay. Edgar Woolard Jr., former CEO and chairman of DuPont, thinks so. CEO pay is driven today primarily by outside consultant surveys, he says. Companies all want their CEOs to be in the top half and preferably the top quarter of all CEOs. This leads to annual increases. He also criticizes the enormous severance packages that company boards give to CEOs that fail. For example, Carly Fiorina, former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, received roughly $21 million in cash severance and about $40 million in total exit compensation, including stock and pension, when she was forced out in 2005. Using a web search tool, locate articles about this topic and then write responses to the questions in the ethical dilemma section below. Be sure to support your arguments and cite your sources. Ethical dilemma. Are CEOs entitled to increases in compensation when their company's financial situation worsens because their job becomes more challenging? If they fail, are they entitled to huge severance packages for their efforts? Should companies be required to divulge all details of compensation for their highest top managers? And what effect is such disclosure likely to have on executive pay?
Critical thinking case. Managing an extreme makeover. Executives of Wipro Limited visited Toyota Kirloskar Motors auto assembly plant in Bidadi, near their headquarters in Bengaluru, India, where models such as the Corolla were produced. There, they hit on a revolutionary idea. Why not apply Toyota's successful manufacturing techniques to managing their software development and clients' back-office operations business? Toyota preaches continuous improvement, respect for employees, learning, and embracing change, says T.K. Kurian, former CEO of Wipro's IT business, and later CEO of Wipro Limited. What we do is apply people, technology, and processes to solve a business problem. Among the problems spotted early on by Kurian: cubicles. They're normal for programmers, but interrupt the flow for business process employees. Deciding to position people side by side at long tables, assembly line style, was a roaring disaster, admits Kurian. The factory idea concerned people. So based on feedback from his middle managers, Kurian arranged classes to explain his concepts and how they would ultimately make life easier for employees. Wipro also adopted Toyota's Kaizen system of soliciting employee suggestions. Priya, who has worked for Wipro for years, submitted several Kaizen and was delighted when her bosses responded promptly to her suggestions. Even though it's something small, it feels good. You're being considered, she says. Kurian and his managers work hard at boosting employee morale, offering rewards, pens, caps, or shirts to employees who submit suggestions to Kaizen boxes. And each week, a top-performing employee receives a cake. Murthy, an accountant who hopes to be Wipro's chief financial officer someday, spearheaded an effort to cut government import approval times from 30 to 15 days. He got a cake with his name written on it in honey. I was surprised management knew what I was doing, he says. Now, I want to do more projects. With over $3 billion in contracts, a market cap at nearly $31 billion, and over 230,000 employees, Wipro is celebrating 25 years of being listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The company's paperwork processing operations bear a clear resemblance to a Toyota plant. 2 shifts of young people line long rows of tables. At the start of each shift, team leaders discuss the day's goals and divide up tasks. And just like in a Toyota factory, electronic displays mounted on the walls shift from green to red if things get bogged down. This obsession with management efficiency has helped India become the back office operation for hundreds of Western companies, resulting in the transfer of many thousands of jobs offshore. If the Indians get this right, In addition to their low labor rates, they can become deadly competition, says Jeffrey K. Leiker, Professor Emeritus of Industrial and Operations Engineering at the University of Michigan, and author of The Toyota Way, a book about Toyota's lean manufacturing techniques. If Kurian's management initiatives succeed, experts may soon be extolling the Wipro way. Critical thinking questions. 1. What type of manager is T.K. Kurian? How would you characterize his leadership style? 2. What managerial role does T.K. Kurian assume in his approach to attaining his division's goal of improved customer service? 3. What management skill sets does he exhibit? This has been Introduction to Business, 2nd edition, from OpenStax. OpenStax textbooks and this free audiobook are covered under a Creative Commons license. The full text is available at www.openstax.org. You can find this free audiobook anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Instructors can even download a course shell to easily embed these recordings in Canvas courses. Learn more by visiting www.openaudio.us. Did you find this audiobook helpful? If so, please let us know by leaving a comment and sharing this recording with a colleague or a friend.